York. It is media day for the Nets and for the Knicks, also the Pelicans. We're going to get to them a little bit later. But players and coaches, they spoke this morning ahead of training camp. Here's what new head coach Mike Brown had to say about coaching his new star point guard. Take a listen.
You know, he seems like he's a versatile player, and the biggest thing that I want to do for him is try to get him, as well as everybody else, easy shots. And one of the easiest shots in the game of basketball is a spray three. I'm a big proponent of touching the paint and spraying that basketball for a catch and shoot three. And so within what we do, we're going to try to get him a lot of those.
Obviously, everyone being new to this is going to take some time, but very excited to get to learn more and understand his philosophies and his concepts. And I think once we get started, we're going to get off to the right path.
I'm excited for this team. You know, we have great depth that gives us a chance to feel good about any part of the season, whatever the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs that go on, that we have a team that's fully ready to go regardless of the situation.
Dive in there. Shams Charania, Brian Windhorst, and Kendrick Perkins, of course, joining me as well. Our front office insider, Bobby Marks, who will be by in just a minute. Brian, there's a lot there. The Knicks diving straight into the X's and O's of the season. What was your biggest takeaway? What do you think fans should know after listening to the Knicks today?
Well, Malika, I am very fluent in training camp speak, so let me translate this for all of our viewers. The Knicks are planning on making a very long playoff run, and so they want to begin September and October thinking about May and June. They don't want to say it like that, but they know that Jalen Brunson has one of the biggest workloads in the NBA. He actually was 17th in minutes last year, but he led the league in dribbles. You know what that means? It means that he did a lot of work in his time, and frankly, the idea of playing him less minutes than that is not likely, especially when he's the clutch player of the year and your team is built largely around him finishing games. So from October onward, they know they're not going to be able to play him less, but they want to stress him out less over the course of the next 6 months. Whether or not they actually follow through with it, we'll wait and see, but that's what the plan that Mike Brown and Jalen Brunson are essentially talking about.
Well, if they plan on playing in June, I definitely don't want to hear about they sweet nothings about the offensive end. That's not the problem. I want to hear about defense. If you're going to play in the June, you got to be able to defend, and it starts with your two stars. And right now I'm looking at Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns on what they did last year: smothered chicken, oxtails, and sweet potato pie. That's how sweet they are defensively. You look at Karl-Anthony Towns and you look at some numbers right here. He ranked 43rd out of 50 qualified players in field goal percentage allowed. He was getting scored on 60% of the time. If the Knicks are going to take that leap, getting to the NBA Finals, trying to win the championship, it's going to be because of Karl-Anthony Towns and his ability to be able to anchor the defense. We know that he's one of the most skilled bigs to play offensively of all time. One of the best, if not best, shooting big to play the game of basketball. But defense wins championships, and that's what I want to hear from now to this start, going into training camp, all the way throughout the course of the season when Mike Brown addressed this team is the defensive side of things.
Well, there was another D word that came up a lot for the New York Knicks last year, and that was depth, Perk. This Knicks team, of course, it kept its core together, but they also added new bench pieces, and you have said that you wanted to see, particularly in the regular season, leaning a little bit more on the bench. So what else, Shams, needs to be done for this team before they start the season if they're going to have the long playoff run that Brian is saying that they're looking toward?
Yeah, Malika, the Knicks need to finalize multiple key positions on their bench, and that's two players, Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet. Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet both signed deals with the intent and the plan for them both to be on the roster on opening night and this regular season. Brogdon, I'm told he's expected to play a key bench role in the rotation. Landry Shamet's a guy you can kind of plug and play whenever you need a player on the wing to eat up some minutes as the season goes on. He's also well respected, but how do you do that? They have a lot of cap issues right now that they've got to work through. What does that mean? But both those players signed a deal. They're expected to be on this team.
When you talk about flexibility, I think of Bobby Marks, not because he can do the splits, but because he makes sure that we understand the financial flexibility. He is here with us now. Bobby, when we take a look at the Knicks depth chart here, Mike Brown has said he's not sure who the fifth starter is going to be. How are they going to utilize them?
Well, listen, when we look at the players that are underlined, this is the starting lineup from last year. The second most points per game since 1986 and 87. They joined Denver last year. We talked about depth. Look at all this depth they went out. Certainly Malcolm Brogdon, Landry Shamet. They bring back Miles McBride, and they signed Jordan Clarkson. I think there's some big questions here when we're looking at the Knicks offseason. I think there's 4 different things here. It's NBA Finals or bust when we're looking at it. I equate it almost to what Detroit did 20 years ago. Rick Carlisle out, Larry Brown in. They go out and win a championship. Who's the 5th starter? Is it going to be Josh Hart or certainly Mitchell Robinson? The revamped bench, last in minutes per game. And who is the odd man out in a trade? We're almost on the 1-year anniversary of the Karl Anthony Towns trade. It's not going to be as big, but New York does have to make a trade because of the second apron to keep Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet on this roster.
It's fascinating that even for a team that we talk about as 1 or 2 in the Eastern Conference, they still have this much left to address. Bobby, any splits for the road? No?
No,
we're not going to try that. All right.
My pants are a little tough.
Ready.
He's obviously had injury history, a little bit of off-season drama.
It comes down to health.
You can't trust him.
I don't think this guy is going to put in the time to be great.
Zion's value is debatable.
Let's talk about Zion Williamson. Remember, he's one of over 100 players in NBA history to score at least 20 points a game over their first 5 NBA seasons. Among those players, Zion boasts the best field goal percentage, 59%. That's the good. The bad, of course, is since becoming the first overall pick, he's played in just 45% of the Pelicans' regular season games, and he's missed at least 60% of games in 4 of the last 6 seasons. So here's a look at the Pelicans' expecting starting lineup this season. This doesn't include DeJounte Murray because, remember, he's rehabbing from that Achilles injury that he suffered in January. The team held media day this afternoon, and Zion, he looks pretty good, and he spoke about some tough off-season conversations he had with his trainer.
Last year while I was rehabbing my hamstring, me and him sat down and we had a conversation. He was just like, Z, we need to figure this out. Like, when you come back from rehab, we want you to be better than before it happened, XYZ. During that time frame last year, I really felt a shift in my body to where I would look at him and go, dude, it feels good to feel good. I haven't felt like this since college, high school, just where I can walk in the gym and I'm like, I feel good.
And that's what we want for Zion, for him to walk in the gym, feel good, and be the exciting player that we all know that he is when he's on the floor. Shams, you have your ear to the ground in these locker rooms. What are you hearing in terms of Zion's relationship, his commitment here with the Pelicans going into this new season?
Malika, it's ever evolving, and a lot of that is the relationship between Zion Williamson and Joe Dumars, the new head of basketball operations there. And Joe Dumars has made it clear publicly and privately that he's going to be holding Zion Williamson accountable this season. And that responsibility comes from leadership, being on time to things. Remember last season, he was suspended for 1 game for being late to a team plane.
Yeah, that's right.
That wasn't the only time Zion Williamson's ever been late. That has been a reoccurring thing for him at different points. But we know this, if he can clean that stuff up, clean up the leadership side, if he can stay healthy, from a difference-making perspective, Zion Williamson has all those qualities to be a real game changer for this team. If he's healthy and on the court, they have playoff expectations. The key is getting him healthy on the court, playing consistently.
And that's a good reminder. I'm sure there's a lot of us out there who forgot about that incident where he was suspended for being late to that team plane. And it sounds like something so little, but those little things add up. Brian, he looks good, though, and he's saying all the right things. What's your reaction hearing about this commitment that he has, talking with his trainer in this offseason?
I appreciate everything that he said. But, actions have to carry over words at this point. The reality is this. 99% of NBA players, forget about 99% of all basketball players, 99% of NBA players teams would have moved on from over this last 6 years. Because Zion Williamson is so immensely talented, the Pelicans stick with him as their hopeful franchise player. But what is being left unsaid, but is pretty clear with the actions of everybody, this is probably it. If he wants it to work in New Orleans, it's got to be now. It's got to show up in this season. And the thing about it is, defining success for the Pelicans is tough. They've got 4 different players, Malika, coming off surgery. This seems like it's a thing that always happens to them. It's happening again. They have 4 guys, including their lottery pick, Derek Queen.
Yeah.
They need Zion Williamson to do it now. And I'll tell you what, he's got almost $90 million over the next 2 seasons that are non-guaranteed.
That's right.
The Pelicans could cut him. In the apron era, that's something that they could do. And he would get another job, but he wouldn't make $90 million and he wouldn't be the franchise player. He's got a lot to play for this year.
Y'all do realize in this world today, we all just at some point just need to feel love, right? That's what we need, some type of love at some point of our lives. This is where we're at right now. I feel like with the reset in the Pelicans organization for us getting Joe Dumars, having Troy Weaver, the reset with Zion Williamson off the floor, right? You have the great Bill Duffy who's in this corner, his agent. He's under the right guidance now. You could tell he's in the right mental space, and that's going to carry over. And in that feeling love, you have tough love, right? Accountability. People that's going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. I played with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I played with Troy Weaver when he was, the assistant general manager right under Sam Presti, and we had tough conversations, right? I wasn't the perfect athlete off the floor. I had my problems. I had my issues, things that I'd done, and Troy Weaver would pull me into his office and address those problems like man-to-man, heart-to-heart, to show that, hey, big fella, I care about you, and that's what Zion Williamson need. He's been pounded on enough. Like, far as even myself, I didn't criticize him. He's been fat shamed. He's been every single thing in the world. But now he's in the space that he looks happy. He's smiling. He's in shape. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do on that floor, because I think he's going to go out there and do a great job this season and be healthy and be that leader that they want him to be.
Yeah, look, the Western Conference, it's incredibly crowded this year. The Pelicans have a lot of injuries that they're going to have to battle through. But you hope that this is the year that Zion is the one to sort of take them to the level that we've all thought that they could be at for several years. One of those teams that we have a lot of expectations for in a crowded West, of course, is the Houston Rockets. And Shams, you broke some unfortunate news on the show yesterday that Rockets point guard Fred VanVleet, he suffered a torn ACL during an offseason workout. He could miss the entire 2025-2026 season. He just signed a 2-year extension this summer, and his absence, it leaves a hole for a team without a true backup point guard. So, Shams, what else can you tell us about the injury and what the Rockets' next move might be here? It's
clearly likely that he's going to be out the entire 2025-26 season. This is an ACL tear. We're almost at October. It's just devastating. He's their starting point guard. He's their veteran leader. He's their voice. Him and Ime Udoka have built such a great relationship to kind of push this new era of Rockets basketball forward, but he is now potentially out for the season, and that means that Reed Sheppard, Amen Thompson, there's going to be a big focal point emphasis on those two guys in particular to eat up minutes at point guard. They also, like the Knicks, have different cap ramifications that are going to prevent them from potentially, even if they wanted to go sign a point guard, they're just not able to right now in the free agency market. So we'll see how they handle it. If there's going to be a move, of course, their team's keeping an eye. Do they, once the regular season starts, do they keep an open mind about making another big deal potentially? But I think right now you look internally and see what can you do. But just a devastating blow, a tough time to have this ACL tear for Fred VanVleet.
You say cap ramifications, I hear check in with Bobby Marks, and that's what we're going to do right now. Bobby, can you just spell out what the options are here for Houston?
I think the one option you're going to be looking at is you're going to get a healthy dose of Amen Thompson at point guard this year. Last year, 1,300 possessions at point guard, but however, most of them were with Jalen Green, who's no longer on the roster here. It was already thin in the backcourt. Aaron Holiday, Reed Sheppard as far as the backcourt here. Here's some questions for Houston. Help is not on the way. 80% of this roster cannot be traded until at least December 15th because they were signed or extended in the offseason here. Also, Shams mentioned the cap ramifications. $1.2 million below the first apron. They cannot sign a 15th player out there. Of course, the options at lead guard, Thompson, Sheppard, Aaron Holiday, who started 3 games, the backcourt depth of those 2 players, and of course, we're still monitoring Kevin Durant, who's extension eligible to June 30th, and Tari Eason up until October 20th. Still a contending team, but as you could see, it changes the dynamics when you're putting a third-year player in Amen Thompson at point guard, and with their questionable depth already.
Yeah, you're looking at a really big lineup as well. Perk, it sounds like the Rockets are looking at improving from within here. That could be relying a lot on second-year guard Reed Sheppard. How would you approach this? You're in Houston.
Well, I wouldn't overly react to the point guard situation because they have so many guys that can actually push the rock, from Amon Thompson to Kevin Durant to, what's the reason we call Shangoon Baby Jokic, because he could be that point center. So I expect them to get out, play fast. That's not a problem. The problem that I do have losing Fred VanVleet, if you're the Rockets, is the shooting, right? They were one of the worst three-point shooting teams last season. And so where they're going to get that from? Amon Thompson, this guy's a generational talent in my opinion. I expect him to be one of the best two-way players in the game in the next 2 to 3 years. He's one of the most athletic players already, great court vision. So again, who's going to knock down shots outside of Kevin Durant? You look at the kid, Reed Shepherd. I think he's going to help them tremendously in the area that they lacked in last season, and knocking down open threes to make sure that they have the right spacing to be able to do what they need to do.
I don't disagree with you. It may be Reed Shepherd time, but downs and assists last season, and he was averaging 25, 10, and 5 in the playoffs before suffering that Achilles injury. In 2025, he was the third time he averaged 25, 10, and 5 in the playoffs. He passed Larry Bird for the most in Celtics history. Joining us right now is Celtics star Jayson Tatum. Jayson, it is so great to see you. I wanted to start with your Achilles rehab. We just saw a little bit of what happened a couple of months ago. Actually, you reminded us this morning on First Take that it's been 19 weeks since your injury. Is that right?
Yeah, every Tuesday is a week. So today would be 19 weeks post-surgery.
19 weeks post-surgery. And you mentioned that there's been ups and downs. Can you be specific? What are you able to do right now? What does the rehab look like?
It's been a gradual transition. I would say right now the period I'm in is getting pretty much back to like ramping up basketball workouts. Yesterday I had my first on-court basketball workout for about 15 to 20 minutes, and it just felt really natural. And it was like a sigh of relief to be back on the court again.
Yeah, that must have felt like a breath of fresh air. I was reading earlier today a story in People magazine that you had talked to people for, and you were mentioning that you were with your son, Deuce, and watching highlights, and you turned to him and said, "Do you ever think I'm going to get back to that point again?" What did Deuce say to you in that moment, and how full circle was it to be back on the court?
Yeah, Deuce is in second grade now, so he's reached the iPad status, and all his friends at school watch basketball highlights. So we were on the couch, and he was watching my highlights from like high school and college, and he was like, "Daddy, look when you did this." And I was like, "Yo, Deuce, you think Daddy ever be able to do that again?" And in an innocent way, he looked at me. He was like, "Of course." And you know, I needed that in that moment.
Yeah, that's what sons are for, right? That's the absolute right answer, Deuce. What's the next benchmark for you? If you were back on the court now, what's the next rehab hurdle for you to clear?
Just to keep gradually increasing, you know, ramping up. It's been a long journey, right? And I always kind of reflect on, you know, surgery, and then you get your stitches out, and then you get your boot, and then at 4 weeks you're 50% weight bearing. You know, part of the reason I'm here is to announce my partnership with Vertex Pharmaceuticals. There was a period where at 4 weeks I was introducing new things, and you know, I was starting to feel some discomfort and some pain, and that's when I had a conversation with my doctor, and we went through my medical history, and that's when he prescribed me Journavx, which is a non-opioid medicine for severe to moderate to severe acute pain. And you know, like anything, it has side effects, but that's why you talk to your doctor. And through that time, you know, I took it, and it relieved the pain that I had, and it really just kind of gave me a clear mind and to be confident during that time going into rehab, you know, to attack whatever we were trying to do at that period.
I did love, Jayson, that you have been very clear, especially today, as all of us have been saying, well, you're out for this season, this, that, and the other. That's not the way you're looking at this, right?
I keep emphasizing the most important thing is making a full recovery, being 100% before I step back on the floor. I'm working towards something, and like I said, I'm not rehabbing 6 days a week for no reason. So you know, we'll see.
At this position, when we're going into the playoffs, I'm going to make this push as long as my body's ready. Is there something in your mind that you're going to say, yep, this is, I have a goal right now?
Absolutely. Myself, my trainer, my close friends, my mom. I told them a while ago, like I put a date on the calendar of when I will be 100% ready and able to play. Whenever that date is, it will be a home game in front of the fans in TD Garden. That is something that I have, dreamed about and envisioned.
Let's talk about the Celtics roster that's going to be playing in TD Garden, because it's experienced a little bit of turnover this offseason. You lost some key pieces to the 2024 title team. What role have you played in being a part of the vision, and what can you say about the roster construction currently, the team you're coming back to eventually?
Yeah, I'm super excited about the team that we have. Obviously, throughout this business, throughout the NBA, there's always going to be change. You won't be able to keep the same team forever. But now it's a new chapter, it's a new journey, and I couldn't be more excited about the team that we have.
There's some people who have suggested, Jayson, that, maybe the Celtics this year take a little step back, get a better lottery positioning, all of that sort of thing. Knowing Joe Mazzulla, that's not necessarily how he's wired. You're already shaking your head. That's not how this team is thinking, is it?
No, it's not even just a Joe thing. It's the way our organization is ran, is the culture that we've set, it's the standard that we have, regardless of who's on our team, that we have to go out there every single night and play to that standard. And that's, the Boston Celtics way, and that's compete for championship.
I want to talk about Jaylen Brown. What are you expecting from him? What conversations have you guys had? You've been partners for a very long time, and he's going to have to carry the mantle for a little bit without you.
No, absolutely. It's, understanding JB's All-NBA player, Finals MVP, he's won a championship, right? He's one of the most talented guys in the NBA. It's just really being that guy for, a while, and understanding that, he's been in this position before. Throughout the season, there's times where guys are out or whatever, and you just have a bigger role throughout the season. Now it's going to be from the beginning. And like I said, between JB and the rest of those guys, that everybody's going to have, a larger role, and fingerprints going to be more in the game. But this is what they're built for.
Yeah.
These guys are champions.
This did tickle me a little bit. Did you see Jaylen Brown? He was streaming live over the past weekend, and he was asked if he had one person to call for $100,000, who it would be. Just for viewers who haven't seen it, check it out.
Call Peyton real quick, see if he answers. Y'all think Peyton gonna answer? He ain't answering game. Crazy. Let me see D-White. Let me call D-White. Down 0 for 2, gang. I just worked out with Nimi. Nimi better pick up. Damn. From Nimi, 0 for 3. I'll smash Jordan in the back of the head. Shall we 0 for 4, gang? This is my last one. This is my last line. You see the block me. 0 for 5. What is going on? Called 5 teammates and nobody picked up, but I forgot I changed my number.
He just changed his number?
So I saw that the next day, and it's like, ironically, I had my phone in my hand, and I seen this, unfamiliar number come across my phone. I'm like, yo, who is calling me? In typical JV fashion, to call his teammates but not tell us that he had a new phone number and expect us to answer.
We had one of our teammates in NBA Today recently changed their phone number and made sure to text all of us, hey, this is my new number, lock it. Would he answer your FaceTime call right now? If you were to FaceTime him, would he pick up?
I like to think so.
You want to is your phone in your pocket? We gonna give it a try?
So my phone is downstairs. I don't have it.
I think Kendrick Perkins would answer our FaceTime if we called it right now. I really appreciate the time, Jayson. Thank you so very much. I wish you the best of luck in your continued rehab. And shout out the Gray Sweater Gang. Have a great rest of your day.
Good match. Thank you.
From one of the young faces of the league to another, Anthony Edwards, already in the Timberwolves facility. He's getting work done ahead of training camp. Shams, what are you hearing in terms of the development of Ant's game this offseason?
So, Malika, last off was the three-point shot. He spent a lot of time working on that, increasing the volume. Then he goes and ends up leading the league in three-pointers made last season. But again, for the second straight year, another quick exit in the Western Conference Finals. That's left him back at the drawing board, trying to figure out how can he round out his game. So I've been told this offseason, Anthony Edwards' #1 focus, a new area of development, and that's the post-up game, the mid-post, the high post, low post, establishing a mid-range game, and the fadeaway shot from the post, a la Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm told he's been watching a lot of tape of Kobe and MJ, studying their game and how they were able to get the shot off from the post-up game. And my understanding is Minnesota believes this part of his game potentially will become a go-to element especially as games stagnate down the stretch, get slower, particularly come playoff time. So Anthony Edwards has understood he needs to take the next step in his game if this team is going to take the next step, and that's why he's been in that Minnesota Timberwolves facility since June. But that mid-range shot, that post-up game, that fade away from the post like MJ and Kobe, that could very well be a big part of his repertoire this season.
You say like MJ and Kobe, pairing that with Anthony Edwards, and I know, Perk, that fans across the country, their antennas are now up. What do you think of this new version of Anthony Edwards that we could be seeing?
I mean, a la SGA, a la Jayson Tatum, a la Kevin Durant. All those guys have a mid-post game and a post-up game, and it's so crucial because you need it. It's so hard to guard, especially when you catch it at that mid-post. And Anthony Edwards, look, exceptional job for us adding the tray ball to his game last season, but it gives him an opportunity to be great and be able to flourish more in the half-court set without having to worry about double teams, teams loading up, teams being, taking away driving gaps. Now you add those turnarounds over both shoulders. I'm excited to see it. And the one thing that I would never do, and we all would never do, is question Anthony Edwards when he say he's working on something. I'm just looking forward to seeing it.
I just know that Anthony Edwards I sat down with him a year ago, and he told me that, as people called him the next Michael Jordan, I'm not so sure about that now.
However, the scouts, coaches, and execs were asked where he would be in a year, with the majority saying he would still be on the Lakers or retired from the league entirely. But before we even get to what the future has in store for LeBron, let's take a look at the roster he'll have for year 23. Bobby, take it away.
Well, one thing we do know that LeBron will be on the Lakers roster at the start of this season, of course. And I do think what they've done this offseason, when you're looking at the addition of DeAndre Ayton and certainly Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia, they're in the conversation when we're talking about some of these top teams in the Western Conference. But here are some of the questions we're going into the season. Year 23 of LeBron. That is remarkable. The last time we saw him was that Game 5, limping off the court with that knee injury against Minnesota here. We talked about the newcomers, integrating Marcus Smart, DeAndre Ayton, and Jake LaRavia. The loss of Dorian Finney-Smith. Is there enough perimeter defense? And here's the big thing. Balancing the two timelines. Oof. You are a win-now team, but then you also have an eye out in 2026 and 27 when you have potential of $100 million of cap flexibility with Luka on that roster to build around him now. That's going to be the most challenging thing this year, is the two-timeline approach, win now versus the future.
That's always tough. I feel like every time somebody's trying to go through these two timelines, it's a very delicate dance, to your point. Now, Shams, let me ask you this. LeBron in the last year of a contract at the moment, what determines his future?
I think just seeing how this year plays out, I mean, it's clear that he's not sure whether, does he have 1 year left? Does he have another season after that? So 2026, 2027. I did speak to his agent, Rich Paul, at Clutch Sports today, and he told me it's important not to worry about the future when it comes to LeBron James. Just appreciate the present and also maximizing his present. And that, obviously, that onus potentially falling on the Lakers and what team they put around him. But it's obvious. How does he feel about the Lakers going into the season as the year continues on? Can they be a contender moving forward? And I think the other thing that also sits here as well is Bryce James is going to start his freshman year at college. How does he look? How does he look as a prospect? How does he play into the 2026 NBA draft? So these are all things I think LeBron James is going to be open-minded about.
Ruben, let me ask you this, because the poll was basically LeBron's a Laker or LeBron retires. What did you make of that particular distinction?
Well, it's just because it's hard for him to go elsewhere. I mean, Bobby and I call you 7 times a week about how, if they did this, it's just hard for anyone to trade for a guy making $52 million. It's a lot of money. And even he would have to, ask for that, he would have to approve of that. And I think that we're in a position now where if he was going to do that, he's had opportunities, whether it be a couple years ago with the Warriors when they came calling, they expressed interest again this summer. The Cavs are on that list because we all know the heartstrings are there in Cleveland, but if they were going to do anything, it would probably have to be before the regular season even started because they're in the second apron. And so I think it's just hard to envision how he would go someplace else unless he asked for that. And Shams, to your point, it's based on how the Lakers do. If they're winning, if they're rolling, I think he blends in. If they struggle out of the gates or if they hit a rough spot, if somebody has an injury, then I think we have a lot of content to talk about in LA.
You think?
Well, I think the big question is where we are in January with this Lakers team. In a really deep Western Conference, that what happens if you're a 500 team and you're competing just to get into the play-in? Does that change as far as LeBron's mentality of competing for a championship? Because all signs would signal that you probably are not competing for a championship. And Ramona hit on a point there is, listen, once we get into the regular season, those teams that he potentially maybe had an eye on this offseason, whether it be Cleveland or Dallas, those teams don't become in play because of where they are financially.
The one thing that surprised me on this poll was that league insiders voted Nikola Jokic as the best player, and this wasn't the part. It was that he basically got every vote but one. Luka got one vote in that poll. So, look, I mean, the Joker is inevitable. He's like Thanos to me, okay? But were you surprised at how lopsided this was?
Well, I was surprised because then there's another question on there as far as who the MVP is, and Shea got 5 votes, and I think Jokic got 7.
Right.
So I'm thinking, like, well, wait a minute, how come Shea didn't make it onto this year? I am surprised with that. Certainly the disparity, not that Jokic is number 1, but that nobody else outside of
Giannis would like it.
outside of Luka was even on there.
Look, I covered that series with Denver and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it was a clash of the 2 MVP favorites, right? And Nikola Jokic asserted himself in that series to the point where when you saw them side by side, you saw how important Jokic was to his team, how much he was able to do, how he controlled the game, even on both sides of the ball. It's hard to argue that he's not the best player, and I think even the Thunder would tell you that was the toughest series that they had to get through. If not for Aaron Gordon having an injury in that last game, I don't know what would have happened there. But I am surprised. Giannis should get some votes in that vote. Shea should get some votes, but Giannis isn't. But Jokic is inevitable, as you said. He is that good.
Thanos, Shams, what do you think?
I mean, I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, how do you not give him more love? The year that he just had, MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, NBA Finals MVP. His own shoe, NBA 2K. I mean, there's a lot of things you can put in there to say why he might be the best player right now in the world. The disparity to me is what catches me off guard.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm with you guys. Like, I could make a case for a lot of those guys that you put in there. I just think that the Joker is at the peak of his powers right now, and I think guys around the league, coaches, players, who have to deal with him on a day in and day out basis, it's not that they're throwing shade at these other guys. They just know how tough this dude is to beat in a given moment. I mean, think about it. In that series, I was there for 2 of those games, and it could have gone either way in that series. And then Aaron Gordon gets hurt, and we know what happened in Game 7. But they were on the brink of upsetting the OKC Thunder.
Well, and it's amazing because it shows you the thin margin where a Thunder team that was faced with a Game 7 at home. Imagine if you lose that game. We're probably not talking about them right now. It changes the landscape here, but Oklahoma City wins, and now we're talking about Shea and what the next step is with that group.
But I actually think that will help the Thunder now because they've gone through the 16 and they've won. So now that was the year to get them. If you couldn't get them last year, now I think they're going to be more dominant moving forward. Now, Shams, we have something here on the All-Star format. What do you got?
So the USA versus World will be happening. It's 3 teams. It's a round-robin tournament, 2 U.S. teams, 1 world team. And essentially how this is going to go, I'm told, here are the details. 4 total games, 12 minutes per game, so a total of 48 minutes of action. So it's essentially 1 full game, NBA game regulation. So these